Happy Showcase Sunday, and the Showcase Sunday is here to help and support businesses, hospitality businesses in the UK, and bring experts in. Experts like the amazing Karen Haworth from Nutshell Training, who is going to tell us all about who she is, what she does, where she comes from, and how she's going to help you in the hospitality industry. So let me introduce you. Karen, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do and why you do it?
Okay, hi Alison, thank you very much for inviting me along today. So as Alison said, my name's Karen Haworth. I'm based in South Cumbria in Arnside, and I have a training company called Nutshell Training. I have a background in hospitality, and I worked in the industry before I became a college lecturer. But I decided to leave the education industry and run my own business for 7 years. So I do know what it's like to have staff and juggle all the things that you have to do when you're in business. But at the time I was running my business, which only closed 2 days a year, I had 4 young children and it was just too much. So I kind of thought, what can I do to combine my skills from working in the industry with my lecturing skills? And so I thought, well, I'm going to set a training company up, and that's about 15, 16 years ago now. So for the past 15 years I've been delivering workplace training, and predominantly it was compliance sort of subjects like food safety and first aid and health and safety, fire, licensing, all the things that businesses, particularly hospitality, need to remain compliant. But as much as I've enjoyed it and found it worthwhile, I always felt like something was missing. So in the last 3 years I've retrained in mental health first aid and also suicide first aid more recently, and that's because I feel like, you know, organisations make sure that their employees are compliant, but sometimes that can be a bit of a tick box exercise, and in the process the well-being of the employees gets forgotten. And you know, we all know if your staff haven't got good well-being and they're not, you know, reasonably happy or very happy, it's going to cause challenges for you and for them. So yeah, that's where I'm up to really.
Wow, and obviously there's lots of training providers out there. I've got my own training academy. I don't cover what you cover, obviously, but what makes you unique and different? What's different about you against your competition, Karen?
Well, I always think that's a bit of a difficult question, really, but I like to think that that I offer a holistic approach. So not only can I support organisations with the practical compliance type subjects, but I can also help them to develop the well-being and work on the emotional needs of their employees so that they've got a happy team. Because, you know, if you do that, then you invest in your staff, they're more likely to stay with you, they're more likely to be loyal and provide a better customer service. But I think that holistic is important. We need to look at the organisation, look at the teams within it, but also look at the individuals. And so when I'm delivering training, I try to take all those factors into account. So what does the organisation need? What does the team need? And what do the individuals within that require from this? How do we kind of tick all those boxes? And I think, you know, with experience of the industry and experience of lecturing and training, I'm confident enough to be able to let go in a training session and sometimes see where it goes, because, you know, for me, training needs to be an effective use of people's time and resources. And I think if it's just a PowerPoint and a rigid specification that you stick to, you can sometimes miss the point. So I'd like to think that one of the things that I can do is be adaptable and versatile, and sometimes be a facilitator, because often there's so much knowledge and experience in the room that it's more valid and valuable to tap into that and share that knowledge, you know, what works, what doesn't work, you know, than just stand there going through a set format. So yeah, that's
you're so right, Karen, because there are lots of training providers, as you know, as I said earlier, and it's interesting. The thing that I'm obsessed with when I'm training is action with Alison. I want action, I want implementation, because you're absolutely, you know, bang on with the time is precious. Right now, the hospitality industry is having the biggest kicking of the lives. I've said that for quite a few months now. And we are trying to address to make sure that, yes, we are not just compliant, but we are implementing training needs that is so important, because we've got people from all different areas, all different levels at the moment, and it's trying to keep everybody up to operational standards and moving in the right direction. But the key right now with what you're doing is the well-being side, which is really vital. And, you know, what do you do that will help the hospitality and that's relevant right now?
Well, I think you've touched on it there, Alison, in that one of the issues now isn't necessarily, you know, if we'd had this conversation a couple of years ago, I might have, you know, asked me that question, I might have said, well, one of the issues that I hear a lot is that we can't keep up to date with training. It's expensive in time and money. You know, people come along and leave. English isn't always the first language, but as you just alluded to, now it's a matter of really keeping hold of the staff you've got, because there isn't this steady stream of people wanting to work in hospitality. So I think that what, you know, we can do is help organisations to really not just develop the teams with the skills they need to do the job safely and professionally, but also develop the person and learn how we can notice when things aren't right, because ultimately it's about noticing. It's about being mindful when people aren't behaving at the best, you know, performing at the best, or, you know, maybe kicking off about things, making mistakes, coming into work late, upsetting the team. And, you know, rather than admonishing them for that behaviour, find out what's causing it and see how we can support them.
Yeah, because it's so easy, and I've done it myself in the past when I was managing hotels.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to say, right, it's a disciplinary route, or we're going to have to go through a program to actually performance manage. You know, and now we're in a different scale altogether. I think we are learning throughout the industry, and it's so vital, so important to actually look after our teams. But the other element as well, which I've had conversations recently from other industries who are recruiting from hospitality, because we have great customer service people, we have great work ethic people, and we have the ideal opportunity for other industries to take customer facing employees into new environments that are now offering different timescales and different experiences for the, you know, the individuals, and we have to step up as an industry. We've got to change. You know, gone are the days. I was saying to you earlier, you know, that, you know, I thought 90 hours a week was the average of everybody in the world. I don't know any different. And the whole industry has had a different experience in lockdown, that those hours aren't sustainable in the future, and they're not going to be the way forward for anybody, you know, whether we like it or not, whether we had that experience. And I talk to hoteliers around the world, and I think, you know, we have this mentality in the UK for some strange reason, that because we've experienced it ourselves as we've been training or going through the ranks, that we should expect everybody else to do the same. But no, we need to be the leaders of change, and the leaders of change is to bring in different experiences, different time wise, and different, you know, well-being implementations in businesses to ensure that we understand. Now, Karen, I'll be honest, there's a lot of businesses out there, a lot of business owners, managers and staff don't actually understand what well-being is. So can we allude to that a little bit, please?
Yes, absolutely. So well-being is a combination, I would say, of three things. It's our physical well-being, how we feel physically, how we feel mentally, and we could add into that sort of emotionally and socially. But the two main ones are our physical health and our mental health. And the two go hand in hand. A lot of people think mental health is a negative term, that it's when something's going wrong. But we all have mental health all the time. It's on a continuum and it fluctuates. For some people it fluctuates more than it does for others, and our physical health also fluctuates as well, but I think people tend to think they've got more control over the physical health than they do the mental health. But if our physical health is good, it's more likely our mental health will be, and vice versa. And if those two are good, then our emotional and social health will be better and positive. So it makes sense to support people to have, you know, good well-being, and because they can live better, they can do the job better, and you know, we subconsciously people pick up on how we're feeling. So even when we try to mask it, as many people may do in hospitality, you know, when we're face to face with a customer, we're trying not to show them maybe how we really feel, but subconsciously it comes through. So if you've got staff that feel well mentally and emotionally, that's going to give a much better customer experience, I think.
It's true, and I am very big, and I've always I'm well known for saying it. However, all my teams in my past, in my career, being throughout the hospitality industry in 30 years, I had in my diary TFM meeting.
Yeah.
And nobody had a clue what TFM was, but they knew it was really important and it was non-negotiable. It was time for me. Now, I instruct everybody I work with to put that in their diary, because if they don't have time for me, they're not getting that well-being aspect, and it's really important. And you know, you go through this. It's the question I have next is obviously how long. Well, I know it's really difficult to say with how long's a piece of string, but if somebody was coming to find out how to implement well-being practice in their operation,
yeah,
how could they do that with you?
Well, the way I like to approach our services is to find out what a company needs first of all. So find out what are the problems that are going on within the organisation, because I think that's the first and foremost step. And then depending on what we find is then to look at, you know, what we can offer to support them with that. And I think, you know, with well-being, you hear a lot now about mental health first aiders and wellbeing champions, and you know, I deliver that training, and I think it's very worthwhile. I'm not sure the titles are that good, that people often don't even understand what it is, but I think it's got to be more than that. It's got to be a cultural thing. We need to reduce the stigma around mental health and mental health issues, and we need to you know, look at it from an organisational point of view, the teams or departments within the organisation, and then the individuals within those teams. So I actually, you know, I'm not saying that it's just for line managers, but I think, you know, line managers is an important place to start, because, you know, I have this belief that when people are good at what they do, they tend to get promoted, whether it's within the same organisation or to a new organisation. And that's great, but there comes a point when sometimes they've got teams and people to look after, they don't have the people skills. And, you know, the way a line manager supports the team can make or break the people within it. And so I think, you know, I would say that it's important to look after your line managers and give them the emotional intelligence to look after the people that are helping them to achieve their targets. I think HR as well, you know, HR are seen as fixers, aren't they? So like, oh, we've got a problem, we need to go to HR. But I think HR staff need the skills to understand how they can support people. And I think, you know, one of the things I really feel passionately about within my business is signposting people to the wealth of resources that are out there, and many of which are free, but people just don't know about them. So yeah, so that's definitely a way to support.
Yeah, and it's also owners of businesses and managers of businesses, because we as an industry, we do promote people. We say they're great at that job, put them in a position, forget to train them to the next level, and then expect them to be still fabulous at what they were doing, but managing a team of people, which they'd never done before. And that's just crazy, because the pressure is immense then. And then if they're being performance managed on top of that and given 3 months review of whether they've actually achieved it, that becomes a real issue. But I think the awareness, because people will spike out of character at any point, or they might just leave. And I think it's a shame, and there's always red flags that come up. You know, if one departmental manager it's always got the staff turnover, it's not just going having a go at that person, it's about, or performance managing that person, it's actually saying, right, what training needs do we need to address here?
And I think, you know, exit interviews and things like that to find out why people are leaving, so that you know what you're addressing. And
not take it as a personal insult, take it as a learning curve.
Absolutely. And I think it's top down and bottom up, which is something that we keep hearing. But I think, you know, if an organisation as a whole invests in well-being and tries to create a positive culture, it's that openness. So if somebody quite senior is prepared to say, and there are campaigns you can use, like the This Is Me campaign, just a short video about who they are, what the job is, what the hobbies are, and then, you know, they might say, and I have a diagnosis of severe depression, and people are like, wow, really? Well, they're doing that job, and they, you know, and they're living the life they live, but they, well, if they can be open and they can get the right support to live such a full life, then maybe I could address the issues I've been facing. And so I think, you know, it needs that openness right through, and where people can feel confident that they'll be listened to and not, you know, reprimanded or
judged.
Judged, that's the word. And it won't necessarily, you know, it's not going to affect their promotion opportunities or the respect that they'll get from people around them.
We need to be more proactive rather than reactive. And the moment, I think, because we're in a state of crisis, we tend to be in a reactive mode, a firefighting mode, and it's trying to get business owners, business managers, teams to actually be more proactive than reactive, and I agree. So we normally ask on a Showcase Sunday, what are your 5 tips to help us get along right now?
Well, I would say, as I've already mentioned, really, I would say definitely integrate well-being into the workplace, however that looks for your organisation. Because I know in hospitality, you've got the great big organisations with hundreds of staff, then you've got the organisations with, you know, 5 or 10 staff. So it depends what your organisation looks like and the structure within it. But I think, you know, it's something to think about in those 3 levels: organisation, teams within it, departments and individuals. And I think we need to be mindful that it's, when people are together, it's about experiences they share rather than environments that they share. So we need to be, you know, really talking to people and getting to know what's going on in their lives. Secondly, I would say, when people are reacting at work, think of the iceberg principle. You know, that bit we can see, what's that hidden bit that's causing that? And take time to show that we care. Take time to say that we've noticed. You know, we could call it an emotional snapping or a stress signature, but that's the bit that we see. So we can use that as an opportunity to say, do you know what, I've noticed this, or you don't seem yourself, you know, would you like to, you know, have a chat or go for a coffee or a walk or take 5 or whatever that might look like, and we can have a chat, see if we can support you.
That's massive. I used to take anybody who had I called it the beacon of hope There was a hope, yeah, there was a hope that everything would be all right after our walk in the garden. I'd take a member of the team for a walk in nature. I don't know why, because I knew nothing about it at the time, but it was my gut that told me to do it.
Yeah.
And I'd say, so what's going on? Let's talk about what's going on in your life right now. And
Exactly.
completely different kettle of fish happened, you know, and that hope came back, that we can actually fix this and make it all okay. But it is that knowledge and understanding when you're doing that walk around, and a lot of business managers are that busy focusing on the pressure, the targets, and getting the money back that they've lost off the lockdowns, that they're forgetting that there's all these icebergs all over the building and all over the premises and the business. And it's about grasping each one and saying, right, one day, you know, 1 hour a day, I go on a walk around and see how the team's getting on. And you're right, that's so vital.
And it's such a good investment, because for every pound, Deloitte did a survey and they found that for every pound we invest in the well-being of our employees, however we go about that the returns are fivefold, which is massive. And again, you can use the iceberg principle, but you think the bit we can see is the pound we spend. The £5 can be the hidden cost, but it's the staff turnover that doesn't occur. It's the absenteeism that doesn't occur. It's that customer loyalty. It's about not customer loyalty, sorry, employee loyalty, about employees going that extra mile, you know, staying on when you need them to or whatever, because you've invested in them and they feel respected, they feel valued, and that goes a long way on both sides, really. So I think definitely consider what's going on, and giving your time to people and being authentic and genuine about it.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, not doing it just because it's on the tick list.
Exactly. Yeah, it's got to come from the heart, really, and it's not always easy, but it's worthwhile. Yeah, I think number 3, I've touched on again already, but I would say empower line managers with emotional intelligence. You know, we discussed that, but I think people are promoted because they're good at doing a certain thing. You know, it could be a chef who's superb at cooking, but now they've got a team to manage. And yes, they're very busy, but it's worth learning the things that might happen to someone, on the way they may behave when things aren't going right for them. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the chef that deals with the person. They could then maybe signpost them to a mental health champion or HR or wherever. But it's just the fact, I've noticed you don't seem yourself at the moment. If we can help you, you know, please let me know, and I can signpost you to the resources that are available.
And making it okay, making it the culture of okay, you know, let's be kind to each other.
Kindness goes a long way. And I think at the moment, well, it's not, but I think we all know, don't we, at the moment, that everybody's been under so much pressure for different reasons. I mean, I heard a great expression the other day, and it was same storm, different boat.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going on in people's lives, do we? We don't know what's happening at home. We do hopefully know what's happening at work, but there can be so many challenges that a person's facing, and they may just feel through pride or because of fearful of job security that they can't be open about it. And it's like you said, Alison, we need to be kinder and say, come on, we're all in this together. How can we make this work?
Yeah, because the one thing we do in hospitality, and you know, because you've been in it yourself, guess what's always on that exit door to the public arena? Smile, you're now on stage. So guess what? We're the best actors and actresses that you could possibly have, because we're used to, you know, dealing with leaving the emotions at the door and going on and showcasing how amazing the business is, or we are, etc., and people pleasing, and sometimes that has a major knock-on effect when things aren't dealt with before you put them at the door.
That's so true. And imagine if these people have got, you know, positive well-being and they feel valued, they don't really need to act, do they? Because actually they're feeling, you know, we're in this together, let's do a good job for the benefit of all, for their own satisfaction and the customer as well. So yeah, I think there needs to be more pride in the industry, to be honest with you. You know, it needs to be seen with more respect, the skills that are actually in there, and recognised like it is, I would say, more on the continent.
Around the world, hospitality is one of the leading careers. Why?
Absolutely.
I mean, you look at hospitality, how skillful, experienced, knowledgeable. You know, we work in all areas, in all fields, under all sorts of pressure, and we can adapt and diversify, innovate very quickly, no matter what's thrown at us. And we have showcased that through the whole of lockdown. And I think we need to be proud. What we need to do, and it's one of my main missions in AJ Lakes, is to bring hospitality as a leading career in the UK, because we should be. It is an amazing industry. One, you know, it was the fourth biggest industry in the UK. Up until lockdown, obviously, and but it, you know, and we need to address that and keep, you know, celebrating our wins, celebrating how amazing we are as an industry, rather than what's wrong. Focus on what's right and what's great, rather than constantly saying, oh well, we didn't do that, and we're all at fault for that. We are.
Yeah, we can be like the woodcutter with the blunt axe, can't we, where we don't stop to, you just stop and take stock and say, right, how can we do this better?
Yeah. So the next tips?
The next one I would say is make a point of finding out what resources there are available to support staff. And once you've found the resources, make sure you share them. So, for example, lots of organisations have an employee assistance programme, which is, I think, one called Hospitality Action, which would be a hospitality one.
Yeah.
It's surprising how many people don't know it exists.
I know, and it frustrates me, because I go on about it. I say, have you signposted that person? You know, if I hear about somebody struggling in the industry, have you signposted them to Hospitality Action, where they are used to working with hospitality employees? And a lot of people say, we haven't got a clue what you're talking about.
It's very true. I've in my mind, I'm thinking it's less than 5% uptake, but don't quote me on that. It is low, I know that. And then there are other organisations, like a government-funded one called Able Futures, and I'll give you these resources as links afterwards. But Able Futures is a government-funded, and you can go online, you can register yourself. The one thing you need, well, two things, is you need to be over 18 and you need to have a contract of employment. But you can literally sign on, and within 30 days, somebody will have contacted you to make your first appointment, and you will be entitled to 9 months of fully funded training. So that equates to about, not fully funded training, fully funded counselling. That equates to about 39 weeks. So that's 39 hours of fully funded free counselling, completely private. At the moment it's done on Zoom, but I think pre-COVID it was face to face, and I presume moving forward you may get a choice. But it's an amazing.
Is that all over the UK?
Yes, Able Futures.
Wow, that's amazing.
So well, that's Able Futures in England. I'd have to check on Scotland and Wales.
Yeah.
But so that's a resource that people don't know about. And if you go on the website, there's posters. You can put them in toilets, on toilet doors, in staff rooms, notice boards, send out emails. That's another thing, is just sending out an email. Got these great wellbeing resources. Are you aware of them? This is available, that's available, so that people don't always have to, declare the feelings. They can get the support they need privately and confidentially. So I think signposting is really important. I think, if budgets allow, it's definitely worth training some staff in mental health first aid, or to be a wellbeing champion, whatever you want to call it. And that's really about equipping them with the skills to notice changes, in relation to things like stress, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, self-harm, that kind of thing, because they're all on the increase, unfortunately. And yeah, people are often reluctant to say anything themselves because of the stigma, but if somebody notices and you know, gently approaches them, it's surprising what
And it's
about how they can, like you were saying about you walk and talk in the garden.
Yeah, and it's for all levels, and if any of the staff seem to, because we get all sorts of different people watching these Showcase Sundays, and I think if you're a team member right now and you've noticed your managers reacting differently, or your owner of the business is not how, you know, the pressure's really got to them, it's about actually pinpointing or saying, have you seen that Showcase Sunday, or can I give you the link for this, because I think it's really important. You just have a look at it, no pressure. I'm just concerned, because we are all a family in hospitality. We work, we live and breathe our work, and we love what we do, but to look after each other no matter what level is vital.
It is, and I think that's such a good point, Alison, because it's not always about more senior people supporting those down the hierarchy. It can be exactly that, looking up, you know, it is top down, bottom up. It's everyone looking out for everyone else. And so it's a good idea to have, you know, different people, because somebody might be happy talking to one person but not another, you know, and it gives you that variety and a different perspective and a different take on things. So I think, you know, knowing what resources are there and signposting people to them is really important. And I think finally, we just sometimes need to remember to say thank you. We need to show that we recognise when somebody's gone over and above, or even just done the job well. It's very easy to communicate with people when they're not doing something how we want them to do it, but then forget to communicate how appreciative we are of what they are doing amazingly well. And I think that is massive recognition. It costs nothing, and you know, bothering to find out people's names and who they are, and just acknowledging people, I think is massive.
Oh, very, very true. And knowing more about them than, you know, what the name is and where they live and what pressures have they gone in, and actually finding out how, you know, what the families are going through at the moment, because potentially it could be somebody still on furlough and the money's really tight.
It could be so many things. It could be bereavement, it could be, you know, financial worries, working from home, partners. It's endless, isn't it? And there's really nobody, I don't think, who's not affected in some way or other at the moment. So,
yeah, especially with the amount of businesses who are losing teams because of isolation. They're losing parents who the children are isolating, so they're having to either work from home or go back on furlough. I mean, it's absolutely crazy at the moment. And it's understanding, rather than, are you joking, you've got to take time out, or it's actually saying, gosh, yeah, this is really awful for the business, but it's awful for you as well, and recognizing that.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think it's very easy to generalize, you know, every single business is different. But I also think that less is more sometimes. I think, you know, for some businesses, it might be, and it's probably what they're doing, do less, but manage with the team that you've got and give a good quality service, rather than trying to be open all day with a very short, with very low staffing levels, where you're not giving good service, your staff are reaching burnout. It's, you know, I think we've all got to learn that actually things aren't going to be available 24/7 anymore, and that we do need to be a bit more realistic about people's capabilities and look after their health. But there is just one other thing that I would like to say, you know, based on what I've mentioned so far, and that is that I think we've all got to remember as individuals that it's not our role to fix other people, and it's not our role to advise people. It's our role to support people, be kind, and really listen to other people, give people an opportunity to talk, because actually when we're heard, we can often work things out for ourselves. We don't want to be judged. We don't want to be told what to do. We just want to be heard. And if somebody can signpost us to some resources, it's empowering us to take responsibility for our own well-being. And I think, you know, that is important.
Brilliant. And would you add on and this is a question because I don't know the answer to this, but would you add on an accountability buddy of how you're getting on and or not?
You could do. It depends on the structure of the organisation. If there's mental health first aiders, they could be that person. But yes, absolutely, people could support one another. Something that I'm starting to do with people who've been on the courses that I offer is have a monthly meeting where people can just drop in and talk about what's worked for them, what they found challenging, offload if they've, you know, because sometimes people have to take on stuff from somebody else. It's like, wow, that's quite heavy. And they need to offload. Yeah. So I'm offering these meetings. So I think, you know, within an organisation, they've also got to support anyone who takes on that role. So if you are going to buddy someone who's really struggling with the mental health or the physical health, then you need to support that person as well.
Yeah.
So it is a knock-on effect.
And that's what you offer as well. So that's an added benefit if you go through any of your courses, to actually be able to go to your monthly meetings and have that experience where you can offload, because you're fully trained. Because a lot of business owners would be going, whoa, Alison, hold on a minute, do I have to get fully trained too? I mean, it would help, but they would start to panic a little bit. I can hear them, you know, going the thought process around, and I appreciate that it is too much for some people to take on board. But if they've got somewhere that, like yourself, who can actually deal with that and have that monthly meeting where it's a confidential, you know, let it go. Yeah.
To people in a similar situation, yeah, it's really important. But also, this is where the EAPs are useful. You can use an EAP for that. If you're a mental health champion and you're supporting someone and you know they've had a really difficult time and what you've heard has impacted on you, your EAP is a great sounding board.
And the EAP is
the Employee Assistance Programme, which is paid for by the organisation. Able Futures is a fully funded government organisation that provides counselling, and there's also NHS therapies. So if you don't want to go to your GP, you can go online and sign yourself up to that. There's loads out there. I'll send you the links that I have so far.
Yeah, we'll put all the links at the end of this interview. And if someone, you know, if someone was on the fence right now and they're saying, oh, I haven't got the time, I haven't got the energy, you know, what would your past and present clients say to those people? Because I always think it's ideal from your past and your present clients to have that conversation. You know, what would they say to anybody who's sat on the fence thinking, do I really need to do this right now, or can I wait until it goes a bit quieter?
Well, the feedback that I've had from the mental health first aid, which has been predominantly what I've been delivering this past 15 months, is that people have been amazed how much they've learnt in 2 days. The key things that come out are how important that listening is, and how they can use these skills not only in the workplace but in the private lives as well. The comments have been, wow, such an amazing course. I feel I've learned so much. It's benefiting not only myself but my family, my friends, my work colleagues. I don't really like, you know, it's not very good at selling yourself. Well, I'm not.
Of course it is.
Things like they said about the training, they like the holistic approach, friendly, approachable, professional, knowledgeable, patient. I don't know.
And they can implement it all.
Yes.
Easy to implement in the culture.
Yeah, it's something. It's skills that we all have. We just need to tweak, really. You know, some of us need to talk less, listen more. We need to really be kind and understand. There's something called your frame of reference, and it's basically the experiences you've had through your life. So we tend to look at life through our own frame of reference, but we need to stop and say, do you know what, everybody's frame of reference is not like mine. I don't know how they feel, but I can try and understand. And that's really empathy, isn't it? Empathy is you might not have walked in somebody's shoes, but you can try and understand how that feels and not judge them, but offer them support. And I think that's what we all really need to do. If we make a difference to one person, that's massive, isn't it? If we can help more than one, even better.
No,
to the
so
benefit
true.
of all.
So true. And you offer a reference to something that people can go and have an exercise in. Is that correct? The stress exercise, is it?
Oh yes, this is the stress exercise is brilliant. I will send you the link. It's automated. There's different examples if you were to Google it, but basically what it's saying is that we all have a stress container, and if you were to imagine, some of us have a big stress container and some of us have a very small one. So it goes without saying that if your stress container is small, it's going to overflow more easily. So if we think about if we do it as an exercise, it's considering what's in my stress container. So it might be, what are the physical issues going on in my life? You know, my physical health, have I got a disability? How am I looking after myself, eating, drinking, exercising? It could be finances, it could be relationships, it could be work, it could be chronic things like debt that you're managing, or caring for someone. So it's looking at all the things in your life that are causing you to feel stress. And the way I would simply put stress is it's situational. It's our ability to cope or not with the pressures that we're under. And so if the pressure is greater than our ability, we feel stressed. Long-term stress can lead to anxiety. Anxiety can lead to depression, as can other factors impact on that. But with the stress container, once we've put into it all the things, so it's like emptying your mind and sorting everything out. Right, what are the issues going on here? What can I do something about? What do I have to accept? We can then look at how does that impact on us. So if our stress container is getting full or it's starting to overflow, how do we display that? So are we tearful? Are we snappy? Are we really mean and unkind to people? Do we upset the team? Do we go into work late? Do we not care about the loyalty to our employer? And do we not treat customers with respect? It affects everybody differently. Do we stop eating and drinking, or eat and drink more? Do we sleep more or less? How does it affect us? And then we've got to look at the tap on our stress container and say, right, we need to let some of these things flow out. So what are our coping mechanisms? A glass of wine at night, fabulous. A bottle, not a coping mechanism. That's just going to be another stress. Exercise, quality sleep, having someone to talk to, maybe an employer perhaps adapting your working hours or allowing you to work from home or supporting you in something. You know, what's out there that can help me to release the pressure and the contents of my container. So it's just like a way of unraveling, untangling your thoughts, sorting them out, looking at what you can deal with, what can you not, and being mindful of when they're all churning around together and it's overflowing, how am I behaving? What are people seeing in me? And what can I do to
alleviate it?
Use that? Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
The model's a lot clearer than my explanation, but it
No,
will make sense when you see
it's amazing. It sounds like a massive job, but it's I'm guessing all automated, and it will help you into perspective, I'm guessing.
It does, and you say that, and it can be a big job initially, but I would say it's something you can just do every day. You could do it in the form of a list. You know, it's like, right, what's churning around in my mind? What am I ruminating about? You know, what are those thoughts if you're waking up in the middle of the night, or worry about in the morning when you're waking up? What's going on? And put them down. The list could be the container, and then it's thinking, right, how's that impacting on me? Which things can I do something about? Which things can I not? You know, if you've got a bereavement, then it is what it is. But then, even then, well, what support is there available for me? What can I access to help me deal with that? But looking at your lifestyle, and you know, there's the 5 ways to well-being. So it's things like connecting with others. So offloading and talking and supporting others. It's about learning and doing things that develop you, which could be skills at work or out of work. It's about giving back to others, so supporting someone else, moving, keeping exercising, and finally, I can't think of the last one. My mind's gone blank. Where's my list? Yeah, so giving back to others, and there's one more, but yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
On that.
That's amazing. We'll add that at the end.
Yeah, so I forgot what I've said there. Yeah.
No, that's amazing, because the five points to well-being, a lot of us don't realise, and you know, some people I know, you know, in lockdown one, where they were having they were looking forward to the glass of wine or whatever they drink at 5 o'clock after school, homeschooling and everything, became a habit. It became a bad.
Absolutely. I've remembered, Alison, mindfulness.
Well done.
It's about being in the moment, appreciating the small things. If you are going to have a glass of wine, sit down and really enjoy it and appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you're going to go for a walk, enjoy the walk and appreciate your surroundings. If you're going to have a coffee with a friend, really appreciate that. You know, try and live in the moment and not be thinking ahead or backwards.
Yeah, you know, it's like if you're driving along, if you're constantly looking in the rear view mirror, you're going to crash. Stop living in the present. Stop living in the past, live in the present, because otherwise you're going to crash.
Yeah, well, you are. That's a great, and I'm going to use that. But
you're very welcome.
Yeah, these things, I know they're easy to say and they're not always as easy to do, but I think, you know, the other thing is baby steps, little habits, all add up to great changes. We don't have to make the grand gestures and do big things. They're just the little tiny things that we can sustain day to day that all add up.
And you only need to change one little thing each day.
Yeah.
You know, I found that with my exercising now and the wild water swimming. The first time I did that, I thought, what the heck am I doing? And now I crave it. I crave that I've got to go in 3 or 4 times a week, which is a game changer for me, because the focus that it switches on is unbelievable. Now, that was no, the original one was. So I look at it now, and I look back at where I was, and I was completely different. But where focus goes, energy flows. And I work with Tony Robbins in America, and that's his, and you know, is very clear strapline: where focus goes, energy flows. If we're focusing on the negative, that's where we'll always sit. And if we focus on the positive, or where we want to be, and enjoying what we're present and being grateful and having gratitude, we're more likely to get more of that in abundance. And it's fascinating to see that, but we need to also express that around and be the leader of change, rather than whinging and moaning. You know, I have a saying to all my clients when I start up with them, you know, stop bitching and start pitching. And they sit back and they say, whoa, what does that mean? I said, well, there's no point whinging about it. Let's start focusing on actually pitching and getting you out there and really making a difference, because you're whinging and moaning, it's never going to change. No, if you get out there and start making one little baby step per day, then the difference in 365 days in a year is unbelievable. Game changer results at that point.
Definitely.
And so what's the best way? Obviously we'll put all your links and all your contact details at the end, because you offer so much. You know, it's absolutely brilliant. Mental health, first aid, suicide awareness, but it's also about all the other courses that you offer. And I think the holistic approach is massive right now, because you're understanding the different cultures and you're able to adapt and develop to help our hospitality businesses to focus on the positives and actually embed and implement health and well-being in the workplace. How can they get in touch with you, Karen?
The best way is probably email or phone. Love to talk to people. I prefer that to email, really. LinkedIn is the other way, really. They would say they're the three main ways, is either to phone me, email me, or connect on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. And you'll
just on that point there, Alison, sorry to interrupt, but
no, it's all right.
I think as well what you were saying, one of the things that I didn't mention earlier when you said what's different is the way I like to work with organisations as well is to maybe, you know, sometimes you say, well, not just book me when you want some training, but I can come in a day every 2 months or 1 month or whatever, and let's have a look at what needs to be addressed at the moment, because sometimes the issue might be that you're not compliant with something, another time it might be that there's issues amongst, you know, the well-being of the staff. So more of a kind of an ongoing support rather than just as a training. But yeah, I forgot.
That's vital, Karen, because if they don't put it in the diary, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think getting that planning is key to getting things in the diary to make a difference, because if we don't do that, 365 days have gone, and a year later we've had staff issues again and again and again that keep erupting. We've got standard issues because our sales and marketing is only as good as our weakest link, you know. So if we've got lots of bad reviews on our Trustpilot, TripAdvisor, Google reviews, etc., or social media reviews, then our sales and marketing gets a hit. There's so much that it does with regard to that. So if we get to be proactive rather than reactive, and have Karen in your business to be able to help and support you on an ongoing basis, then you're more likely to be 10 million steps forward
hopefully
than either where you were or backwards. So it's really important. Would you like to add anything at all, Karen? Or
well, yeah, just on that point, Alison, I think little and often is the best way with training. You know, with things like food safety, rather than put 10 staff on a course for a day, it's better to maybe do an hour here and there and focus on any issues that you might have had. I think it's the quality of the training and the effectiveness that's more important than the actual qualification and the piece of paper. It's really that investment in the people in the business, and what do they need to make sure that the business runs as smoothly as possible and the customers have the very best experience and come back. That's the aim for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's all right having a piece of paper, but if it's not actually used and implemented, then food safety, for example, could cost you a lot of money. It's like GDPR and everything else, you know, could cost you 4% of global turnover. It could cost you your business if you don't do it correctly. So keeping on top of all your courses is vital, and it also could save somebody's life. That's what I'd like to finish with today, that we are here to help and support the industry, but obviously make sure that you're supporting yourselves as well, and actually getting the right help. And we've got Karen here today who has been able to give you a massive insight, lots of content and lots to offer there. So thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you, Alison.
Thank you. You've been very kind, and we will see all of you in our Showcase Sunday next Sunday. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.